and welcome to Lunchtime Topics. Lunchtime Topics occurs twice a month as a program of the Creative Coast. I'm Kate, Director of Programming and Communications here at the Creative Coast. And if you don't know about us, we are a 501c3 nonprofit here in Savannah, Georgia that exists to catalyze the innovation economy. And one way we achieve this is through our educational and social programs. And Lunchtime Topics is one of those educational programs. It's a live podcast where we feature a guest, usually a local guest in Savannah, who shares their expertise on a subject that affects businesses, startups, existing businesses, and professionals in the community. Today's guest, I'm excited to welcome Katie Rodgers-Hubbard. She's also a She Hustles panelist, former She Hustles panelist, and we're excited to have her on today. Katie she's a life enthusiast, as she describes herself, a wedding reception dancer, and a Leslie Knope. Is that how you say your name? I'm embarrassed because community should be okay.
Leslie Knope, you got it.
I should know that. I'm like, the community fans are going to come out for me.
Parks and Rec fans.
Parks and Rec. Oh my gosh. It's even worse. I'm sorry. I've been watching Severance with Mark Scott. And so, no, he was also on. All right, I'm done. Let me get back. My boyfriend is so ashamed of me right now if he knew I was saying this. Okay. So about Katie, she is a midwesterner, Army spouse, and a small business owner. She started Lite Foot Company because she realized that a sustainable lifestyle is a journey, and that journey can be really overwhelming, right? So her mission is to basically help people on their own journey, no matter where they're at. And she aims to make sustainability simple and accessible. And so that's what we're really going to talk about today is simple steps you can take and knowledge that you can acquire to help your business be more environmentally conscious and lessen its carbon footprint. So welcome everyone today. If you just joined, we're going to save Q&A for the end here. But we're going to go ahead and kick off with our questions. So welcome, Katie. We're so glad to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to talk about this.
So, okay, tell me a little bit about Lightfoot Company so people get an idea of what you do.
Yeah, so Lightfoot Company gets its name from carbon footprint. So we aim to help people's imprint on the earth or impact on the earth lighter, so walking lighter on the earth. So the way that we do that is we offer products that people typically use. We offer an alternative to those. That are not single use or plastic. So all of our products are meant to be reused, such as a reusable sponge, as opposed to a sponge made of plastic that it goes to the landfill. We also have a refillery, and that concept is really all of your products that you typically need and use that come in packaging or single use like plastic bottles. We offer a way for you to get those without that packaging. So you can bring your old spaghetti jar and fill up on your shampoo. And then when your shampoo's done, bring that same spaghetti jar back and fill it up. Or you can use a brand new glass bottle as well. We don't care what containers, but we want to give opportunity for people to reduce the amount of plastic and single-use items.
Very cool. And then, so right now you've been operating out of your truck, right? Your very special truck.
Yep, Hillary the Refillery.
Yeah, Hillary the Refillery. And I think and I should have spoke with you, did you have an announcement recently?
Yeah, so we are also opening up a brick and mortar in Savannah in the Starland district. And that will be open sometime this summer. A lot of logistics have to get worked out, but yeah, we will be opening up in the summer. So we'll still be operating Hillary the Refillery, but also we will have like a finite space for people to come, have way more inventory. People come like at their leisure to get their sustainable staples.
Very cool. I had to mention it because I know that's
thank you.
Position. So I always ask this question because it's so important. What's your why, basically? So can you tell us why you're passionate about this topic?
Yeah, so I think that climate change is real. And I think that it is our fault, as in humanity. It is the steps that we have taken that have got us into this position, that has got us to where we are at right now. But I'm an optimist and positive, so I always look at it of the flip. Because it is our fault and it's because our decisions that have got us here, it is our responsibility and it is our it is our like right to like own up to that and make those changes. And I believe that it is possible, which is why I'm passionate about it, because I believe that it is the choices that we can make, the steps that we can do, whether individually or large scale, that we can make a difference. And so I'm passionate about the educational piece behind it, and also just about the action items. Like here's step A, step B on what we can do to make an impact positively as opposed to negatively.
Awesome. We kind of answered this in that question, but also I'm thinking, why should people be worried about this? What is the concern, or why should they be concerned, really, is the best way to put it?
Yeah, I think it's important for every person to be, for that reason. Like every person has played a role in where we are at right now. And I think that's every person individually up to like businesses, governments, like we have all played a role. And so we all need to play a role in changing the narrative and changing the dynamic. And I will talk about a lot more of those action items in a bit. But if I'm just like speaking to the businesses, right, which is what this podcast is about, there's some really important reasons why it's important for us to concern ourselves with it. Like one, like promoting environmentally friendly, products or methods can help your business be set apart from your competitors that are not doing that. It can help save money. It can also attract new customers. And that is important, right? It can give you good publicity. So let me give some examples about that. So it can save you money as a business. So we just talked about me opening the brick and mortar, right? So in order to open the brick and mortar, I am going to need shelving, tables, cash wrap, a lot of furniture, right? And so for that, I'm using Repurpose Savannah, which if you don't know what Repurpose Savannah is, it is a nonprofit woman-led organization that basically goes in and demos projects and takes the wood and materials that would normally be going to a landfill, and they repurpose them and give it to projects so they can use, right? So one, that is an environmentally friendly decision that I'm making, but it's also saving me money because wood, construction materials have increased a ton in the last couple of years, but the price of that wood being saved from a landfill, inflation hasn't touched that. That is still the same price. So I am saving money by using this. I'm saving like the decision for it to go in the landfill. So that's saving me money to make that decision. I also think that like promoting your environmentally friendly methods really sets your business apart, and it can lead to like publicity for your business. Customers want to know that the products and services are from an environmentally friendly business. I think like 2/3 of Americans are willing to pay more knowing that a product is sustainable or it is coming from a reputable brand whose values match their own. So that's important for us as businesses to be concerned about this because it's important to consumers right now. So it's a good shift to be on the forefront of your mind.
Yeah, I mean, and you see that everywhere. You see that logo. There's usually like I don't know that there's like an organization or a program for it, but usually isn't there some kind of stamp that's on a lot of products that says this is, biodegradable or whatnot. But and of course we have like the recycle, this can be recycled and that kind of stuff, the recycle symbol, but you see it on like so many products these days, where, people are pushing that. And so the fact that 2/3 of Americans, you said, are willing to pay more for a product. I know that I am like, I don't want to, get something that I feel like, is cheaply made and it's going to sit in the landfill for, we don't know how long really. So, and then can you talk a little bit about, can we talk a little bit more about Repurpose Savannah too? Because, I'm familiar with Scott Boylston, who I think is involved with that, and or he was at some point. But I know that I didn't know that you could get the items cheaper there. I figured they would probably be cheaper, but like, I mean, if you're building a home, you might not want to get the wood, but like for projects around the house, right? You could, or at your business, you could use that wood. Like I know they have old bricks that they've deconstructed from historic buildings, which is super cool, right? Like they have all kinds of different things. And they're basically also salvaging, if something does have to be torn down, they're trying to figure out ways, they can still use the items, right? So, but I know they're involved with like the historic preservation of Savannah. I think they're a society. My brain is not with it today.
You're good.
I'm getting community and parks and recs mixed up.
Well, yeah, you're good. I'm not going to do them justice by talking the little about that I know, but I was able to tour their facility maybe 2 weeks ago, and their operation is huge. I mean, they have they have several different barns and warehouses full of stuff, anywhere from like lumber to doors to windows to things like that. And so I don't know I don't want to put an extent on like what you can use those for, because I don't know that, but I know that, yeah, that's essentially what they're doing. They're saving it.
Interesting. Maybe you can build a house or build a structure with it. I don't know. But that's interesting. I guess you have to go out and take a visit there. I know they have an online, or they did at one point have an online shop or something on their website that shows some of the inventory they have.
They do, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that's good to know. That's a great resource in Savannah. Can we talk about some of the what are some companies and businesses' roles in this current situation? And you did kind of talk about why they should be concerned, but what are some of these players, these stakeholders, these businesses that contribute to the environment, and how can they make the changes they need, and why should they be concerned?
Yeah, so I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, and I'm happy to expand on it because, like I said, like every single person, individual, company, whatever, has contributed to where we're at, right? We've had a lot of negative impacts, and also means that we all have our role in making changes positively. So while individuals like you and I, our lifestyle choices do matter. That is what I've built my business around, is that our individual choices matter. However, consumers alone individually cannot save this planet. We ultimately, we don't have a big enough influence for that. So ultimately, it's like the corporations and companies and businesses consume a disproportionate amount of all the resources and generate really an excessive share of the emissions. And so it is the big businesses, even small businesses and larger things outside of individuals that really have a major role to play in saving the planet. So why should we be consumed with it? Is because this is our hope. This is our hope in doing that. But that also drives the consumer end. So the more we as businesses are able to offer sustainable products, sustainable services, the easier it's going to be for the consumers to make an impact as well. So it's like a chain effect. The more that businesses, like you were talking about, those stamps that people are putting on things, or the certifications, the more we have those, the even bigger impact us as individuals can be making. So we're kind of driving the narrative as the businesses to ensure that everyone has most opportunity.
Okay, so for those companies, what are some resources and tools that they can use to educate themselves and then lessen their carbon footprint?
Yeah, so I think a really good education is the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. They actually have, like, if you go on their website, they have a bunch of programs and materials that are already created in various industries for how you can reduce pollution. There's a phrase called pollution prevention. It's also abbreviated as P2. And so there's various options for you to prevent pollution within your industry. And then the EPA has cost calculators. So you can say, okay, I would like to switch this building to all LED lights instead of incandescent, right? So it will say what your cost calculator is on that. And so it will also show that you are saving money by also choosing this environmental effort. So the EPA is a really great resource. I also would say look to similar businesses, either in our country or in other countries where environmental issues are more on the forefront. So look for like similar industries in maybe Sweden, Norway, Iceland, various parts of the world, and look at what they're doing to mitigate their footprint. And then also like utilize your local resources. I am by no means an expert in what your industry is doing, but I am willing to sit down with various businesses too and help them come up with some simple solutions as well.
Yeah, that's great. And I think too, there's been more and more of a movement locally, with the work you're doing. I think of core compost, and I actually worked for a short time for a startup that it took old styrofoam, and they had this machine that ran the styrofoam and heated it up until it formed this goo, and then it was made into bricks, and then their job was to resell it, and that goo was heated up again and molded into, like, it can be molded into fences, flooring, any type of thing. But they were working with companies that had, like, they couldn't control how some of their items were being shipped in styrofoam, so they would then bring their styrofoam over and have it processed. That being said, the companies know more, but I think because the pandemic hit, and then the cost to actually run it versus sell the bricks to the company that was going to buy them, it didn't pan out. Like, it wasn't sustainable for them. So, but yeah, that's something, like, you think about all these different initiatives in the community and how we can get involved and work together. And you talked about repurposing, and I think that's so important, is, like you said, looking locally to see what's out there, because there are people that are already working on stuff, and we just need to support each other. There's also the glass recycling company. It's French, so, and I've been botching my words today, so I better not pronounce it.
I think it's Lammergeier.
Yes, you're right. I think it's that too. I can see it in my head, but I can't pronounce it. And there's is it Film, Savannah, the company that takes old prop items from, do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I just learned about them. I think that's really cool.
Yes. So we actually worked with them on programming in the years past. When we needed an item, we'd go there and be like, oh, they have this. We can use this for a program we have coming up. So, but I just feel like there's so much opportunity in these little hidden, people are working on something that you don't even know about. Like, like there's a hydroponic farm out in, I think that's how you say it, hydroponic, out in Statesboro, where he uses these lights to grow plants year round. And I don't know, there's something about, it's definitely more environmentally conscious in some way, but there's just people working all over,
Yes.
And it's just finding them. And this is making me think we need a resource. Someone needs to build a resource online, like a roadmap, ecosystem of people working in that. So anyways, okay. So you talked about, the resources and tools, but can you talk about what are things that every company can do? Because some things are very company specific, right? Like, not every company is going to be able to do the same things to lessen their carbon footprint or be more environmentally conscious. But what are things that every company can do to lessen their carbon footprint today?
Yeah, so I want to be very intentional about making sure that everyone finds value in this question, but also, like, so keeping it broad enough that every industry can find value, but also giving good content in it. But so I think the first thing is every company can do is a sustainability audit. And this is something every individual could do as well. It works for everybody. And that really is just like a process that reviews, like, your current policies and procedures, and helps you look at areas for which your company can operate more sustainably, where it could make some changes. So this could be a formal process where you, like, hire consultants or a firm. It could be a very informal, it could be you're sending out a survey link, you're talking to me, you're setting up a task force. It could be very informal, of a group of people who are reviewing the things that you do, the things that you spend money on, and assessing what are areas in which we could make changes or improvements in the area of sustainability. Another thing is what I talked about earlier, looking at those P2 opportunities, those pollution prevention. So that really means instead of like using things that generate waste that need to be disposed of, trash, recycling, whatever, businesses can look to avoid waste generation altogether. So an easy example of this is digital over paper, right? I am shocked at the amount of things that still need to be printed out and mailed somewhere. I am shocked by it.
Us too.
Yeah, I had to go get one check printed because someone will only take paper checks in this town. I don't own checks, you know? So like look,
not a good thing.
Right? So looking at digital, even like business cards, right? There's all this technology now where you can like bump phones together and your business card comes up. So looking at various ways that you can just go digital and avoid paper altogether would be a very easy one. Other like pollution prevention, you know, LED over incandescent, which I talked about. If you're a big office, having like filtered water and like mugs instead of bottled water or styrofoam cups, things like that, that is very like prevalent in a lot of office space. I think of examples like a lot of breweries now are taking their organic material and are giving it to farmers as animal feed. That is a great example of people looking at where are our waste and what is something we can do to that. So yeah, looking at your policy or your pollution prevention opportunities. And I think that would be pretty easy to do no matter what industry that you're in.
Yeah.
Another one I think about is everyone can look at like the environmental alternatives for their industry. So almost everything that your business buys or spends money on uses energy and resources. And then it creates waste, right? So looking for ways that we can, what is the sustainable alternative to the things that we're spending money on? So if you are someone who needs supplies, right? Most offices need supplies no matter what you're doing, whether you're a plumber, whether you're, you know, a retail, you need supplies. What are our supplies made of? How is it getting to us? What of those supplies has the least environmental impact? So if I have an option between, I don't know anything about plumbing, so I don't know why I'm trying to give an example about this, but like looking at and what of two products, which one has the least environmental impact? And if it doesn't make a difference in like the how good that product is using the one with the least impact. Do you have a business that ships things, whether it is like mailing customers or you're shipping various products or buying things that require to be shipped? What are the best boxes that you can use? What are the best vessels in terms of shipping out? Are there options that you can get boxes that are made from recycled materials? Can they be composted after? What are the fillers that you're putting in? And then what is your shipping method? Is it being flown? Is it being, 2-day delivery? Does that have a bigger impact than a 7-day delivery? Weighing those options, right? And then the sourcing method. How is your product being made? How is it getting from A to B? Also looking at the values of the partners you have. Almost every business works with other businesses or other partners. So what are their values? So for Lightfoot, it is very important for me to work with all producers and all makers that are also environmentally friendly. So when a customer comes to me, they bring their spaghetti jar, if we keep with that example, and they fill, I have glass jugs of shampoo and they fill that up. Now that I have to get the shampoo in some way. So I get it from a maker who is environmentally friendly, is a B corporation. They do ship me like 5 to 10 gallon buckets that are plastic. However, it is a closed loop system. So when I order another one, I send the old one back and we keep using that cycle, right? It has to be environmental the whole way. And so I make it a point for all of my partners to also be environmentally friendly. Yeah, and I think if I can do one more of those examples, COVID has really allowed us to get used to the work from home options. And while we a lot of times like to think about like the working from and sweatpants is like the big plus with that, and it is, there is huge like environmental impacts to working from home. You're saving countless like commuting has a big footprint, as well as the footprint of housing a commercial space. The electricity that goes on with it, just the amount of energy that goes into feeding a commercial space, and then amenities that go along with that. Do you have a break room? Do you offer all of this stuff? So that is a really big, and then telecommunication is huge versus being in person, right? So I used to work during COVID, I worked for an international organization, and every year prior to the pandemic, twice a year, they would have a huge conference in Washington, D.C. and thousands of people would fly in for this conference. That's very normal, right? Most industries have that. And it switched to strictly like a teleconference when the pandemic happened, and everyone got the same content. And it saved thousands of people flying over from all over the globe. Now, there are times when relationships are very important and you do need that. But I think it's important to ask yourself, can I get the same outcomes if everyone is at their home and is not, putting in the resources to air travel and all of those expenses? So those are something that I think almost every industry can find value in as well.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was gonna bring it up. I saw somebody recently who, I think they put it on LinkedIn, is like, think of how much, and they have like a statistic, I want to say, but how much we're helping the environment by having our workers not have to commute to work every day. Like that's
huge.
And their kind of point was like, and I don't want to say it's, it's like, instead of creating all these crazy technologies, like, why don't we just go back and think about simple ways that we could actually save our environment? So, and I'm not saying, and I should touch on that too, because you also touched on that. Sometimes it does require technology, right? Like, I think there's a lot of room for people to innovate within this, green space. There's a lot of grants out there. There's a lot of money going around. And I think there's even environmentally specific pitch competitions, is what I'm trying to say, for companies that are trying to solve some of the world's biggest problems. I mean, it's everywhere. There's money floating around for it, because companies also want to get behind helping solve those problems, so they're putting money into it. So from our end and what we're doing here with startups, is like, there's room to innovate here, especially too with the port and logistics. There are investors looking for ways to lessen the carbon footprint. That's all I would say today, dang. Lessen their carbon footprint produced by the port, and even the boats themselves, with the fuel used on the boats. All right, like, and I know there's companies that have like electronic trucks that are trying to get into the space here in the port, because obviously, like, that's a huge contributor. All these shipping trucks, as I'm trying to look for the word, in and out of the
cargo ship.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking of like the trucks, actually. What are they called?
Oh, okay. I'm not going to help you here. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, I digress again, but I just, the point I'm trying to make is that there's a lot of space for innovation and for people to take advantage of there. So those were all great points, of course, and I'm glad you brought up the remote thing, because I was going to ask about it. So
yeah, and even to your points, like, there are ways that you can do all of those things by mitigating your footprint as well. So there's solar energy. So if you're like a huge tech company that requires a big amount of electricity, like, there is a way that you can get that will reduce your footprint, or even simple things like, when you're not working on your computer, unplug it, turn it off. There are simple things that everyone can be doing, no matter what industry you are. And I do love all the innovation that's coming, but I think even in those, like there are simple things that we can be doing.
Yeah. And I think, and there's some incentives going around, and you might not know as much about those. I don't want to put you on the spot, but with the city, I think around solar energy for businesses, or is it for the city itself? It's
I don't know. I don't know that.
Okay. But a lot of cities are working towards providing incentives for solar powered businesses, homes, all of that. So it's something to look into. Anywho, there's lots of resources out there. We'll review them again before we close out today. But so if people want to go to learn more about you and about Lightfoot Company and connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, so they can go to my website, which is lightfootcompany.com. Light is spelled Lite, as opposed to the GHT. And then that is my username. Lightfoot Company is my username on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And our email is info@lightfootcompany.com.
Awesome.
So, and I do want to add one more thing, Kate, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I think like a big step, whenever you as a company are making these steps, or making these changes, or just like being genuine about you're interested in making these, I think that sharing your commitment with consumers and customers is extremely important, because I think not only, like I said earlier, it will help to connect you with the customers who share those values, but it also opens the doors for others to learn. It gives them like that aha moment, which only expands the amount of people who are interested in it. So, the amount of times I have, it's probably 50-50 people who enter my truck or come are very familiar with the concept, or at least like familiar with carbon footprint. And then 50% of the people have never thought about it. They're not anti whatever. They haven't thought about what is the impact of continually using disposable razors. And so just being able to share, like, this is my commitment, is extremely important. And I want to share one example that's not Lightfoot related, and the importance of like sharing what your commitment is. So let's say you are a screen printer and you are selling these white shirts with like a normal screen printing shirt, and you cost it at $30, and a customer, and then you express why this is costing $30 when you normally would say maybe a white shirt that has a simple screen print shouldn't be $30, right? Even imagine the scenario, it's a very nice piece of artwork, so it's good. And you as your company who owns the screen printing company can say, well, this is a white shirt because it has no bleach, it has no dyes that are unnatural to this shirt, right? It is made from recycled shirts, so other people are able to send their old cotton, and we're saving it from the landfill, and so we're recycling that and making this into a shirt. And we're also using soy or algae-based inks. All of these things will help at the end of the shirt life cycle to be able to break down, as opposed to a normal white shirt that's 50% polyester with normal dyes on it. It does not do well at the end of its life cycle. And so in that moment, by sharing why you're doing what you're doing, you're teaching your customer base, or you're teaching people a new thing like they've never thought about. And the next time they go look at a shirt and they see it's as bright blue as the shirt that I'm wearing right now, what exactly that means, So I think it's very important to share the journey that you're on, not only for your existing customers, but to help educate. And I think that only spreads the movement further.
That's a really good point. I think about when I first started at the Creative Coast. Obviously, we're a nonprofit, so we don't have like all these unlimited funds. But on the other side of things, when we run events, a lot of times we have leftover material for stuff. And I remember coming on being very young, fresh out of college, and thinking like, well, we should have the events should all look, have a theme and, look the same, and we have the same cups and things like that. And, we didn't have at the time, and for our events, we typically don't have reusable cups just because of the mass of the events. But what we do try to do is anything that's left over gets used somewhere else, right? Like for the time until we can have that solution, because even if it doesn't match, even if it's Christmas cups at She Hustles or Fast Pitch, like we're doing it. And for me, I had to get out of the mentality of being like, but it won't all look the same, because one of the core values too is like, we want to be environmentally, I mean, it's not on our list of values, but we internally talk about it as we want to be environmentally focused. And Joanne Morton, who actually is organizing the Earth Day festivities for the city of Savannah, she's an organizer for She Hustles, and she was the one that really like kind of not punched me in the gut, but kind of got me to wake up and go like, no, we can reuse these napkins that say party time for this, coffee hour, or or it'll work. So anyways, I just wanted to make that note too, is like, even like in your events, thinking about it, if you're a company that runs events and programs, how can you repurpose, reuse material?
Yeah, even like you making a simple statement at the beginning of She Hustles saying like, have you guys wondered why you have turkeys on your napkins? It's because they're left over from our Thanksgiving party, and we value, not wasting things. Like something as simple as that will make connections for people and will be a benefit to people.
Yeah. And having that and saying that too, that definitely is something that gets you out of the mindset of like, well, it won't all match, well, there's a reason it doesn't match, and we're going to tell people why. So yeah, that makes sense. I wanted to leave some time for Q&A. We've got Jason on here if he wants to ask some questions, not to put you on the spot. If not, no worries, we'll close out. But I did want to kind of run back through some of the local resources that you mentioned too, because I think I got one of the names wrong. It's not Film Savannah, it's Film Biz Savannah. If you're listening and interested in checking out that organization, they basically take in props from movie sets that have closed out, and you can go in and buy the products, or I think you can rent them too. And then there's there's Repurpose Savannah, where they repurpose construction material and all kinds of things. I don't want to limit it to that. But you can get it at a better price than buying it new. And some of it's probably in great quality, good condition to use on big projects, right? So we don't know. You just have to go ask to go check it out and talk with the people at Repurpose Savannah. There's Lite Foot Company, of course, Katie's company, and then Core Compost are some of them. And I'm trying to think of anybody I'm missing. I know I'm missing people.
Lemmergeier Glass Recycling.
Yeah, Lemmergeier Glass Recycling. And then of course we have our county recycling on Eisenhower. I've gone and made some trips there before, where you can go drop off your recycling materials, boxes and things like that. So, and it's free, right? You don't have to pay for that. You just go drop it off. And then I think that's it. Unless we have any questions, we're going to go ahead and close out. And I appreciate you being here. Katie, do you have anything you want to add before we close?
I just want to say on Saturday is the city's Earth Day celebration, and there are going to be a bunch of environmental resources and vendors spread out over 3 different parks throughout the city. So I encourage you, it's from 10 to 1. There's going to be a bunch of there will be solar panel experts, people talking about various different parts about sustainability issues. And I think that will be a really good educational piece. If people want to learn more, there is vendors spread out over all 3, and they can find information on the City of Savannah's website.
That's awesome. I remember Joanne said years ago, pre-pandemic, that we had like the second or the largest, I can't remember, don't quote me on it, but we have a really big Earth Day festival here in Savannah, or there's just so much going on and so many people in the community passionate about it. So that's exciting. So definitely thanks for mentioning that. And I think Earth Day is officially this Friday, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. So there's stuff going on at earthday.org too. You can check out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we do have a question from Jason. He said, oh, it went away. Sorry. Katie, do you have set key sustainability metrics? If so, how are you tracking them?
Jason, are you meaning just for my personal business?
Yes.
Yes. I do, and I'm a kind of a newer business, so my goals are ever evolving. So I track those a lot, as in terms of the products that I'm buying and selling. I know the impacts of each item, so I track by items sold, like kind of what is the offset of that, of the specific items that I sell. I know what the offset is for that, so I kind of track by how many I'm selling.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and I also wanted to just say congratulations on all of your success and the soon to be opening of your retail space. Lindy and I were really excited to see that news come across our social feed. So congratulations on that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
So exciting. So happy for you. I know this is something you'd mentioned months ago too. So I had to bring it up. You said you were working on it. So it's always fun to see a business growing and succeeding.
Thank you.
Especially one with a great mission. That's really powerful. So, well, thanks for being here. And
I do have another question that I just randomly thought of. I know you mentioned that your shampoo supplier, Katie, is a B Corporation. Is that something that you've thought about potentially undertaking with Lite Foot Company, becoming a B Corporation?
Yes, a lot of times the B Corporation is for people who are in production. Right now, I don't have any of my own products. And I think that's definitely like a goal of mine, is to have more of my own things. And that would definitely be something I would focus on. I know that B Corporations are harder the smaller you are. You really need to be able to scale up to get that. So I know a lot of great environmental companies, a lot of ones that I use that aren't at the scale in which they can become B Corporations yet. But that is definitely a long-term goal of mine, is to make sure and pass those certifications so I can add that as a value to my business.